If this showed up on your feed or your recommended, then welcome. Good on you, because the straddle planche is a difficult move. So if you're not ready for that yet, I suggest you leave this video. Now that you're still here, I recommend that you make a promise to yourself that you'll achieve this goal, that you'll finish it by a certain date, and that you'll practice consistently, because that's what it takes. It's a difficult move, but with practice, with consistency, it's going to be impossible to not make it at a certain point. So do that right now. One last thing before I start is, if you're interested, I have this community with calisthenics athletes I want to improve, and I actually just finished my first course on there. It's about changing your life through calisthenics, and I'm super proud of it, and I really hope you join. So if you want, it's in the link in the description, so go there now. Alright, let's start. Alright, so really the first thing and the most important thing you should know is that there are no shortcuts to this. You can't do a 5-minute practice and you'll get it. It takes months or years of dedication to achieve this move. The reason for that is because the best things take time to occur, to happen. And because if it was easy, if you were just able to do it now with no practice, no training, nothing like that, it wouldn't be special. It wouldn't be something people go like, oh wow. It would be just another thing, like walking or drinking or eating, right? It would be a normal occurrence that everyone could do. And so the reason it looks so cool, the reason you clicked on this video, is because it's difficult, because you accept the challenge. You know what it's going to take. You know the practice you're going to have to put in, and hopefully that excites you, because yes, the move is fun to learn, but the journey itself is really where you learn the lessons, where you evolve the most, right? That's where you're going to make the most progress, and I applaud you for that. Good job. For every journey, for every path you go, there are barriers or challenges you have to go through, and they're there so that they only let through the ones who are totally determined. So try your best. Make sure you don't give up, because the only way you'll fail in this or in anything is if you give up, right? As long as you keep going, push past the barriers, keep attempting, keep being creative, you'll be able to get through. And with that, you'll enter an area where only the truly determined, truly special people can achieve or arrive. Sorry. Okay, so if you already know the form, if you already know what you need to do, then you can skip this part. But if not, I'd recommend watching, because the form is what makes or breaks your straddle planche. This is what makes it clean. It's what keeps you from injury, and it'll overall look the best, right? It'll look the coolest because it's the safest as well as. So the first thing you really got to get down, and this is what a lot of people struggle with, is the straight arms. You got to keep your elbows forward, and you basically have to make sure they're straight at all times. There can't be any bend, or else a lot of pressure goes onto certain muscles that aren't conditioned yet, and it basically makes your whole planche look worse, as well as higher chance of injury. So that's the first thing, the straight arms. Don't be frustrated, or be frustrated, but keep going if you can't do it already, because it does take practice. Because for most people, I'm guessing including you, you've never really trained like this before. The straight arm strength is something not a lot of people train. It gets neglected in weightlifting and other forms of movement and exercise. And so really, this is one of the main things you have to build up, and it takes time, because it's a tendon rather than a muscle, and those generally take a longer time to strengthen and grow. So another thing, which took me way too long to actually know what this was, but scapular depression, which is where you push your shoulders down, as well as protraction, which is forward. So you got to combine the two to make like a down and forward 45-degree angle. And I didn't know what this was when I started. It seemed confusing to me. I was just watching these people like do their thing, but not knowing how to copy that. So I really hope I explained that okay, as well with video and stuff. So yeah, that was really the most challenging part for me to understand for a long time. Another thing where even now I have to work on this is squeezing the core as well as squeezing the hips. Squeezing the core allows you to have that hollow position where it looks the cleanest because you're not banana planching. And squeezing the hips allows them to stay at a level that's the same as your shoulders, which makes it actually parallel to the ground, like the whole move. And that's really a difficult part of the planche in general. So yeah, if you can do this, you'll be well on your way to mastering it. One other thing that is also really important and is one of the harder things to learn, like with the straight arms, is the leaning forward. Again, it's not something most people learn because it's not used for any weightlifting or bodybuilding reason. So it's something you'll have to get used to. But the reason you have to lean forward is because once you lean forward far enough, your feet lift off. And that's one of the cleanest ways to enter a straddle planche, as well as that's the only way to hold it. Because if you just treat it like a push-up, you're not going to get your feet up unless you jump, and then they'll come right back down. And so the only way they're able to stay up is because you have that forward lean. You have the leverage that your shoulders use or something. I don't know if I explained that well, but hopefully you got that, because you can't planche without it. So one other thing I want to add is that when you do any progression, when you're just learning or when you're getting pretty good, try to look forward and down. So basically like a 45-degree angle. For me at least, this promotes me pushing my scapula forward, the protraction, as well as it makes me think of pushing down into the ground rather than pushing myself up. And that helps me with strength and overall just feeling the position, like knowing where I am in space. And that has been one of the biggest tips that I've learned. So wanted to pass that on as well. So if you've been researching the planche for a while, you'll come across progressions such as tuck, advanced tuck, and then the straddle, which is the main goal for this video. And these progressions are good, but there's such a big gap between each of them. Like even the starting one, the tuck planche, is not an easy skill, and it took me 2 months to learn because I wasn't doing it right. And also, yeah, but the reason that I don't really like them that much is because there's such a wide gap in between each of them, and I feel like there can be more progressions between them to make the bridge a little easier. And so I've added a few progressions to the list that you can go for, and including the first one. So the first one that I really think would be a good progression is the tuck planche swaps. So this is really just being in a tuck planche position but jumping between legs, and this will get you in the feeling of being in your first tuck planche, as well as you'll be holding it for a little bit of time, which can add up. And it's really a great exercise to have when you're trying to first master your tuck planche. The next one, which I'm guessing you know already, is the tuck. The key for this one is just bringing your knees to your chest, leaning forward a bit, but you don't have to lean forward as much as the other ones, because basically the more you lean, the more you can bring your legs out, and that's what makes it hard. So obviously tuck is the least amount of lean, which means it's the easiest. The next one, which I've never really heard much before, is the one leg advanced tuck. So the normal advanced tuck, which will be the one after this, is really a huge gap between the tuck and the advanced tuck, and I thought there should be an intermediate progression to bridge between them, because why not, right? And so this one, it means having one leg at the tuck position and one leg at the advanced tuck position, which would be perpendicular to the ground. And so it's up and down basically. Yeah, this one's a little bit harder because you have to lean forward more to keep that perpendicular leg straight. And that's where the challenge comes in. Obviously, the next one is the normal advanced tuck, which is just both legs being in that same position. And it's a little harder, right? Because as I said before, the farther your legs are from the center of mass, which is I think your shoulder area, then the harder the skill will be. And that's really a recurring pattern that happens for the rest of these skills. This is also the first point where you're going to have to actually push down with your shoulders, like protract your scapula, because in the first one, your back is already bent due to your knees being in your chest. And so this one, you really have to focus on the protraction. You have to focus on the depression. And yeah, it's really your first planche where every form cue I gave you before comes in, right? So spend a lot of time in that one because it's really the base for the rest of the planches. So you can't really do a half straddle or a one leg straddle because then the weight will be kind of impossible to hold. So one progression I thought of, and one that helped me a lot, was the bent leg straddle planche. And this one you could either do like a half lay sort of thing, or you can just bend both legs a little bit, and the less bent the legs are, the harder the progression is. So as you get stronger, you can go through those and slowly unbend your leg. And obviously no bend in the leg would be a full straddle, which is the main goal. But yeah, so this one is the first one where your hips are basically parallel to the ground, and basically like you're in a straight line almost. And as you practice this, as you lean forward more, you'll get a cleaner and cleaner hold, and it will look better and better. And it takes a long time actually, from an advanced tuck to a straddle or to a bent arm straddle. Took me about 5 months, and it was really a struggle because there were points where I wasn't making progress and I wasn't seeing my work results, and it demotivated me. But keep going. If you're having trouble with motivation and you haven't seen much results, try to scale your time frame and basically think of where you were a year ago and compare it to today, instead of comparing where you were last week or last month, because you'll be able to see a lot more change, a lot more progress the further you scale it back. And that's really a rule for a lot of things. It doesn't have to be the planche. It could be soccer. It could be basically any skill you're trying to learn. Just scale back the time frame that you're looking at, and you'll see a lot more progress than you would have if you went by the day to day or month to month. Obviously, the last progression is the full straddle, the straddle planche, which is the main goal. And one thing I really found for this one is flexibility. Having flexible hamstrings, having like the good wide open leg position, basically it makes it easier, because I'm not really sure why, but the wider you can spread your legs, the easier the progression is. And so having this hamstring or flexibility makes it a lot easier to start learning the straddle. And so that's what I really recommend. I'm starting to learn the splits now, and it's actually made my straddle a lot like higher, which I like because I think it looks better. And yeah, flexibility is not necessary, but it does really help if you're looking to get your first straddle as fast as possible and as safe as possible. So that's really one of the main points that I can make for this one. The straddle is also the first point where your body is completely parallel to the ground. And so, congratulations. However, you're not done yet with the planche progressions because they're still full. However, I can't do that yet, so I'm not going to make a video on it. I can do the straddle, which is why I made this. And I hope it's been good so far. If you're watching this far, thank you, and good luck on your actual straddle. Just kidding, I'm still here. I got some tips for you that I didn't mention before. And the first one would be to work out in a cold or cool place. Because if it's super hot, your body's gonna have to work harder to get the same amount of force. And especially for me, I cannot work out in the heat. I feel weak, I feel tired, and after 2 sets, I'm ready to go home. So if you can, find a place with air conditioning or find a place where it's just a good temperature and work there, because the difference in strength will be crazy. Like, you'll see. Another thing is based on your own preferences and what you've seen, and that's know the time that you're stronger in. So I know a lot of people that work out in the morning, they're very strong then, they feel amazing, and they just get it out of the way. But for me at least, I work out in the afternoon or the nighttime because that's when I feel the best. That's when I know I'm pushing myself. That's when I can feel the strongest and make the most progress. And so that's when I choose. So know and experiment with this. Like, find out where and what time you can do the best in when you're strongest. And this should carry over from bodybuilding. At least it did for me. And if you're into weightlifting or bodybuilding already, then I'm pretty sure it will work for you too. But always make sure to run your own experiments, because this is a personal journey. It's for you, and you've got to make it as good and safe as possible. So one other thing is to know if you train better fasted or not fasted. So the pro about fasted is obviously you weigh the least and you don't feel like bloated or like big or any of that, and that's very good for the planche. However, I don't train fasted. One, because I don't train in the morning, and that's really the only time you'll be able to train fasted, unless you fast during the day too. But for me, I just feel super, super weak as well when I'm fasted. So I try to get in something like a banana or just a meal that I've had a few hours earlier. And that really helps me bump up the strength rather than if I was fasted and just super tired. So the last thing I'll end you with is a few exercises that helped me start, and you could slowly scale them up. So the first one was planche leans as well as pseudo planche push-ups, which are similar. And other than that, it was just attempts, and that's all I really did. That's all I did, and you could add more if you want. You could like research some more, but those two just helped me in the beginning when I was first starting. So yeah, that's really it. I hope you take this seriously. Try it out for a few months, see how far you get, and hopefully I'll see you at the top. Bye.